Everyone imagines awakening as something luminous, blissful, and serene, a state of perfect peace, as if one has arrived at a golden summit. But the truth is far less romantic. Awakening is not gentle. It is raw, unforgiving, even violent. It tears away the ground you have stood on your whole life. It feels less like heaven opening and more like madness closing in. You do not recognize yourself. You wonder if you are dying. And in a sense you are, because what rises is not the self you've spent years protecting, but the one buried beneath it. And here lies the paradox. The moment you awaken, the world you trusted disintegrates. You see how much of your life was built on illusions, rules, ambitions, beliefs, even the relationships you held sacred. What once felt solid now seems paper, thin. Reality flips upside down, and suddenly you are confronted with the painful work of unlearning. You begin to peel away lies you didn't know you were living, and yet in that space, instead of freedom, you feel emptiness. You walk into rooms and feel like a stranger. Among those you love, you laugh, but the sound rings hollow. The ache of disconnection cuts like exile. Awakening does not hand you belonging, it strips it away. And you ask yourself, if I cannot stand on what I once knew, but have not yet found new ground, where do I belong? The first stage does not come as a whisper. It comes as a storm. It does not feel spiritual at all. It feels like devastation, like betrayal by life itself. You think you are someone defined by your achievements, your talents, your plans. You build an image and the world affirms it. And then suddenly collapse. The partner leaves. The career dissolves. The money vanishes. The body fails. Sometimes life takes one thing. Sometimes it takes everything. Imagine a surgeon who loses his hands. With them he built his career, his pride, his sense of identity. Without them, he cannot even lift a glass of water. If you strip away wealth, he can earn more. If you take a lover, he may love again. But take away the one thing he staked his existence upon, and the image is shattered. What remains? Only a naked truth too painful to face. Without all those props, he is not who he thought he was. This is the bottom, the stage of suffering, the stage where you discover not as theory, but as experience that you are fragile, small, and breakable. Here the ego does not surrender quietly. It fights. It clings, it rages. You scramble to rebuild the image, to restore the relationship, to reclaim the old life. But the harder you try to patch the mask, the faster it crumbles. This is why it feels terrifying. Because the first stage of awakening is not about insight, it is about loss. Only when life strips you bare can the journey begin. Before you can surrender, you must be broken, and then comes the long night. Not a single evening, but months, years, even decades. The ego resists its own death. Confusion grows thick. Old beliefs disintegrate, but nothing new feels solid. You see that the world you trusted was a web of illusions, but this knowing does not set you free. It feels like your entire existence has been a cruel trick. What you studied, what you worked for, what you loved, all of it looks false. You cannot go back, and yet you cannot step forward. This is the crucifixion of the self-image. A slow dying, stretched across time, and so you begin to search. Anything to make sense of the void. Books, teachers, philosophies, psychology, mysticism, science. You gather fragments. At first, they look contradictory, scattered. But over time you notice something. Though the language differs, the essence is the same. Beneath all perspectives is a single truth, that you are not separate. The lonely ego you thought yourself to be is inseparable from the fabric of life itself. Call it God, the cosmos, Tao, or simply existence. The name does not matter. What matters is the realization that there was never a wall between you and the whole. And then, awareness, the moment when the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The universe no longer appears indifferent, but alive, intelligent, participatory. Where you once saw scarcity, you now notice abundance. Where you once saw enemies, you now see wounds. A person's cruelty becomes recognizable as their shield. Compassion arises not from effort, but from clarity. You see your own patterns too. The the ways you betrayed yourself, the ways you wore masks, but you also discover the strength that has always been there, hidden under the noise. This deepening awareness shifts everything. You begin to change not because you try, but because the old reactions no longer make sense. You notice yourself in the middle of an argument, about to defend or attack, and suddenly clarity cuts through. You step back, you breathe, you choose differently. You find yourself releasing the need to control every outcome. Transformation feels like shedding a skin. The shame, the betrayals, the nights you wept in secret, all of it becomes the material of rebirth. A new self emerges, not the fragile image struggling to be recognized, but something rooted, alive, authentic. Relationships realign, priorities shift. Life no longer feels like a war to win, but a current to join. Fear gives way to trust. You begin to live not as the ego defending its territory, but as life itself expressing through you. This is not about becoming someone new, but remembering who you have always been. Then comes the sense of synchronicity. Life reveals its hidden order. A book falls into your hands at the right moment. A stranger speaks words you needed to hear. A failure opens the door to an unforeseen path. These are not accidents. They are signs that you are woven into a vast design. The sense of exile dissolves. You belong, always have. You see yourself as both wave and ocean, unique, yet inseparable from the whole. The deeper this trust grows, the lighter fear becomes. You no longer beg life for protection, because you see, you are life. The same intelligence that moves the stars moves you. You stop resisting the river and discover it has been carrying you all along. Choices come with ease, not because you calculate every risk, but because you trust the current. And in this final stage, the illusion of separation dissolves. You no longer live as a fragile ego, but as the awareness behind it all. You look into another's eyes and see yourself. Their suffering, their longing, their joy. It is yours too. Awakening is not a prize at the end of a journey. It is a way of being. To awaken is to come home to what you have always been. Whole, fearless, innocent, alive with possibility. Life has never been against you. Even in your darkest hours, it was shaping you, preparing you for the moment you could see. And when you step back into your life after hearing this, let it be with lighter steps. Look not at the world as an enemy, but as a teacher, a partner, a friend. Trust the path. Trust that you belong. And above all, love life. Because in the end, awakening is nothing other than remembering that you and life are not two. You are the same, and this whole dance has always been for you. So if awakening has taught anything, it is this. Life will strip you bare, not to punish you, but to reveal you. It will break down every false wall so that only truth remains. And though the path is brutal, though it asks for everything you think you are, what it gives in return is beyond measure. It gives you yourself, not the mask, not the role, but the living truth of who you have always been. To awaken is not to escape life, but to finally stand in it without fear. It is to realize that the love you were searching for, the belonging you longed for, the meaning you chased, they were never out there. They were inside you all along, waiting for the moment you were willing to see. And when you do, you discover the most radical truth of all. You are not separate from life. You are life. And once you know that deeply and beyond doubt, nothing can ever take it from you.